Welcome back. Welcome back. This is all about the radio antenna. I hope it's interesting. I hope you like it. We'll see. Okay, while I'm waiting for the paint to dry, and or at least get tacky enough for a second coat, which according to the instructions should be in about 15-20 minutes time from when I painted it, and which means I got about 5 more minutes before I can really, then I'm going to touch it again and see if it's just tacky a little bit and then put that second coat on. I thought I would show you, show you something else. So this is the top fairing that, the wings come here and here. And as you can see, there's an antenna on there now. Well, this antenna, of course, is for the VHF radio. Now, for those of you who might be familiar with how radios work, if you're a ham radio operator like me, or just really smart, you'll understand that antennas, they only work, well, let me put it this way. All antennas are dipoles. Two poles. All antennas. I don't care what it is. There are 2 parts of an antenna. Call it a positive and a negative. It's not DC, but let's just call it that. Or a ground and a hot. Whatever. Every antenna needs 2 sides. Now those sides should be as equal as possible electrically. Not necessarily physically, but electrically they need to be as equal as possible. And they need to be tuned as close as possible to the frequency that you're operating. Now, if one side, your ground, is really large and would be out of tune, you can compensate with the other side and get that tuning in there. So that your antenna is most efficient and doesn't reflect a lot of power back to the radio, which causes the heat and causes it to burn out and all bad things. So this is made out of fiberglass. This is an antenna. There's insulators here so that when you drill the hole, it protrudes and you hook the coax to the back side. When you hook the coax, you would hook the center conductor of the coax to this. And the braid, you need to hook to a ground plane, or the other half of your dipole. Well, this is fiberglass. And I didn't want to put a big sheet of aluminum in there because really what's going to be underneath this is going to be a linear actuator. And then there's going to be that strobe controller over here. So, in order to make a ground plane, I glued tin foil, heavy duty, Reynolds wrap or whatever brand. Make sure it's really heavy duty. Use contact cement. I use the 3M spray on contact cement. Spray the contact cement on here, spray the contact cement onto the foil, and then when it waited the prerequisite time, I applied the foil, used a roller, and went on it for a long time. Yes, I got wrinkles, that kind of stuff on here. I don't care. But that's my ground plane. It's here. So the braid or the shield of the coax will be attached to this. And how I can attach that? Well, quite simply. I'm going to crimp a ring terminal on it that is the sufficient diameter to fit around here. What actually is going to have a 1/2 inch inner hole, and then that ring terminal will be there. Tighten this up, and of course the center conductor of the coax will be crimped onto another ring terminal with a smaller one, and onto the antenna portion here, which sticks out. There you go. You don't need a piece of aluminum sheet and try to figure out where to put this aluminum sheet. This will work. It'll work perfectly. And there you go. It's a ground plane. And it will provide you the other half of your antenna that you require. Is it going to be in tune? Probably not. These are inexpensive. They're simple stainless steel rods. They're cut to a particular length. But I have an antenna analyzer which will tell me whether the SWR is below 1.5. Ultimately, you want a 1-to-1 SWR. Sometimes you can't achieve that because of how everything is put together. But the analyzer I have is, it's from MFJ, it's an antenna analyzer, and tells me the reactance and the capacitance. And from that, I can tell whether I just need to lengthen or shorten this to get it the right length, which would affect more of the reactance. If it's capacitance, sometimes just installing a capacitor here will help lower it, or anyways, I won't get into too much detail. Radio theory, some of you guys are going to be glazing your eyes over, what's he talking about? But it was, suffice it to say, this will be a very efficient antenna. It'll be near perfect one-to-one. And yeah, the only thing I need to do with it is it's going to sit like this, leaning forward. So I'm just going to put this in a vise and kink it back about 20 degrees, 25 degrees, somewhere in there, so that it's straight up and down. For aesthetic reasons only, has nothing to do with performance. It'll perform just fine like this. And then what I need to do is I'll need to test this. Now it'll be mounted on the aircraft. The wings are made out of aluminum, and I do plan on bonding this foil to the aluminum body of the aircraft, and also bonding it to the wings. I might not need to. I'm going to do my first tests. Once the wings are on, I'm going to put this on, do some testing, and then I'm going to hook up the flat strapping and create a decent ground to everything else and see if it makes any difference. If it doesn't make any difference, then I'm not going to bother with it. It's just more to, flap around inside there. So it's a little bit of experimenting. Let me know if you want to watch that. Me experimenting with getting the radio. One of the difficulties with the radio antenna is how do you fasten your ground to the shield of the braid of the coax. Well, a lot of people who just wrap the braid around there and tighten it down, and I don't like that. You got loose wires everywhere. So you would think that these ring terminals are common. Well, they are. But what's not common is a ring terminal that has a 1/2 inch diameter inside hole with a wire gauge size that runs from 12, actually I think this one runs from 10 to 14 gauge. So I did manage to find them at one of my electronics wholesalers. Thank you very much. I'll give a little quick shout out, DigiKey. So DigiKey, they have these ring terminals. And the reason it has to be 1/2 inch diameter, and let me show you. This insulator, which insulates the antenna wire from everything else around here. Let me take this apart for a second. This insulator fits through the fiberglass hole and then into this like a cup. Okay, so it sandwiches onto the fiberglass, and you tighten the nuts down and it holds it in place. So that also prevents this center from shorting out against your ground plane. Problem is that this hole here where the cup, and it's 1/2 inch diameter. So enter the ring terminal. Fits perfectly. And now I can mount the antenna where the braid from the coax will be crimped and soldered onto here. Bit of heat shrink tubing to protect it. The center lead, of course, will have a ring terminal which will be on the antenna portion. Done. This will contact the foil, giving me my nice ground plane, and it's neat and clean. No loose frayed wires, no ugliness. So they're a little expensive, you know, for ring terminals. I think these worked out to about If you buy 10 or more, I think they were 58 cents a piece. Doesn't sound like much, but for ring terminals, it's actually pretty expensive. These are usually a nickel a piece or a dime a piece. These were like 58 cents if you bought 10 or more. I bought 20. So, but it makes a cleaner job, and that's what I'm after, making these improvements. So, there we go.
And here is where I split the video and introduce something that was filmed at a different date in order to make up the fact that I lost all that other footage. This is showing you the pigtail lead that I'm going to make to fasten onto the antenna on that piece of fiberglass and to hook up to the radio. You'll see. Follow along. I think you might enjoy this.
Okay, well, here's the, I'm not sure what you call this, the cover for that goes between the wings for the airplane, and what I need to do right now is to make a small piece of coax. Let's put this aside. Yeah, I need to make a pigtail of coax so that this antenna, which will be underneath the fairing, will have this little bit of coax coming off of it with a connector at the end. So that if I ever need to remove that cover from between the wings, I just undo this. It'll be a BNC connector, and simple, done. So what I need to do first thing is to, I guess, make the connections for the wing, or for the over here. Or, nah, you know what? I think I'm going to put the BNC connector on first, but not just any old BNC connector. These are the BNC female. They're the other side of the connector. So, yeah. Because rather than putting two standard BNC connectors on and using a double female connector, there's another name for it which I can't use that we used years ago. Yeah, you connect two BNC connectors together. I'm not doing that. I am going to put on this pigtail lead. Will have a BNC female connector. So that means that the other side, just the cable that goes from behind the panel, the avionics panel, which will go up to the top of the aircraft, will have a regular coax with a standard BNC connector on either end. But on the antenna, it'll have a female BNC, so it just plugs in without having to use a union connector or whatever the new term is for it. So, yeah, but I need a couple things, like my crimp connectors. I'll need one of these, because this connector here is a crimp-on connector, and it's that way deliberately, because that's what I wanted. Hate to do this, but I got to put my reading glasses on. Okay. Simple enough. And I should be able to trim back about to there. Yeah. Yeah, that should be good. Now when I'm cutting the outside jacket, I'm just scoring it. I'm not actually cutting right through to the braid, because those wires for the braid are very, very small and easily cut. And I don't want to do that. So, there we go. Now what I do want to do is I want to give this thing a bit of a haircut, because the braid is too long. I only need this braid to be that long, which again, maybe one day I'll have all the prerequisite cameras so that you guys can see close up, but for right now you're just going to have to watch from the distance of someone looking over my shoulder. Sorry. Alright.
And warp speed it is. Aye, Captain, she's traveling fast now. She's gonna break up. Anyways, so I've sped this up because it's kind of a boring section. At least it's boring for me because I've done it for so many years. All I'm doing is trimming and cutting and measuring a little bit, eyeballing it, and then of course I make a mess because all the little wire bits and that kind of stuff. So here I'm gonna pick up all the flotsam and junk and put it onto my anti-static pad, pick up the pad, go to the garbage can and shake it and sweep off all the little wire shavings and junk so I have a clean pad to work with. And now, my little pan of ice, I put the coax into the vise very gently, just, it's not tight at all, and I am soldering the center pin. Now, the center pin can be crimped or it can be soldered. It's sold that it can be done both ways. I chose to solder the center pin, and then I'm happy. So yeah, it's in there, and of course I showed that to you. I pointed it all out, and now I am crimping the outer ring, and back to normal speed.
Almost done. Now, I like to put some heat shrink on here. Actually, I don't need to. Now, where it's going to be sitting, I don't need to put heat shrink tubing. I consider that done. I think that's good. I think that's good. Now, just to check it, there's a jumper cable that I've got with a standard BNC that does have heat shrink. And perfect. Now this side is going to have to get 2 ring terminals, one for the insulation and one here. Now, let's just see for a second. I'm going to reverse this so it's like this. That'll tell me kind of lengths I'm looking at. Actually, right about there. Yeah, okay. That looks about right.
And once again, we are at warp speed. Trying to keep these videos short. I'm failing miserably in that quest. 25-minute videos. Oh, wow. Yeah, or 27. I'm not sure where this is going to end up. It's going to be long. I thought it'd be like a 15-minute little thing, but it's not. So here I am putting the ring terminals on, or at least working at it. First, I'm going to put the large ring terminal onto the braid. Of course, I solder it on there. Put the coax in the little vise, get the soldering iron, and there we go. Make it a permanent connection. Both ring terminals, the one on the braid and the small one that's going on the center conductor, both are going to be soldered on. They're not going to be crimped. They could have been crimped, but I'm not going to. I'm going to solder them because with the vibrations and everything else, I didn't want it coming loose. So it's as secure as possible. The only crimped connection is the ring that's crimping the braid around the BNC female connector onto the BNC female connector, and that's a very solid crimp. I have no problems with that at all. Yeah, this is where I'm at. I'm trimming and cutting and measuring and soldering and all that, and I'm going to be ending this video at the using the outro thing that I recorded with this particular video, which of course was recorded back in the I think this was done somewhere in the earlier mid-February. It was where this was done, and this pigtail lead was created. So, and of course now it's out of sequence, like I said, from all the lost video. I'm scrambling, trying to figure out how to put this all together, but hey, I think I'm doing a decent enough job. I hope. Leave a comment at the below if you think I'm doing a decent enough job, and then we'll sort of take it from there. Now, is this where the warp speed ends? No, I'm going to be warp speeding while I mount the antenna back onto that top piece for the airplane, and attach the pigtail lead to it, and then I stop the warp speed and I sort of show it to you, and there you go. So I'll let you watch the rest in peace, not having to listen to me blabber on and try to fill blank airspace time, which is almost over. Look at that! Wow. Oh, back to normal speed.
That's good and tight. All right, my friends. There's the antenna, and there's my pigtail coax that is now attached to the antenna, attached to the ground and the antenna itself. And when I drop this on the top of the airplane, of course the coax is kind of going to come up to this top. It just will plug in. That allows me to unplug it and remove this if I ever need to service something on the aircraft. So there we go. Simple modification. That means this is now ready to install once I put the wings on the airplane. So, thank you very much for coming along. A little update. And we shall talk to you later. Hopefully this is still recording. Yes, it is. Oh, it's flashing. I gotta check that every once in a while because, you know, sometimes it stops recording and yeah, not good. So, we will be back, and take care, everybody. Make sure to like and subscribe to this, and tell your friends and family there's a crazy Canadian who's rebuilding a Challenger 2, and maybe this summer I'll actually be flying it. So that's the hope. That's what we're trying to get at. So, and we'll be flying into the lakes and doing fishing and camping and all that kind of stuff with that. So, and I'll be bringing you guys along with that, seeing the scenery in northwest Ontario and northern Manitoba, the lake country out there, real rugged country, hundreds of thousands of lakes, and yeah, so that's why all this work is getting done. We will see you again. Take care, and keep your stick on the ice. Bye-bye.
Well, here ends another exciting episode. Thanks a lot for watching. Please like, subscribe, and make a comment. You know, especially after you read the credits. If you actually read the credits and last this long, we'll see. I'll look for your comments. Bye-bye.